Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something super cool today. We're going to completely change the way you interact with the visual world. Think about it. We are constantly surrounded by photos, memes, graphics, videos. It's just an endless stream of visual data, right? But instead of just letting all that information passively wash over us, our goal today is to transform you from a mindless scroller into a sharp, active visual detective. We're going to learn how to crack the code of images.
So let me ask you a question. How much time do you actually spend assessing the images you see every single day? In our hyper-connected digital landscape, we consume media at absolute lightning speed. It's so incredibly easy to just glance, have an instant gut reaction, and swipe on to the next thing. But here's the catch. Every single image you encounter has been deliberately constructed to make you feel or think a certain way. When we just passively consume, we completely miss the hidden messages and mechanics at play.
Now, you might think this is just a modern internet problem, but honestly, we've actually been reading visual text for millennia. Take a look at this carved medallion. It was found in a Buddhist shrine at Amaravati, and it dates all the way back to the late BCE to early CE era. If you look at the right side, you'll notice how the individual scenes within the carving have been outlined and numbered. This was literally done to show the audience the narrative sequence. It was teaching them how to read the medallion. It's a prime, ancient example of visual rhetoric. We are hardwired to read images. We just need to remember how to do it deliberately.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the Creator's Toolkit, where we'll look at the mechanics of visual rhetoric. Every creator, whether we're talking about a classical painter from a century ago or a digital artist working today, uses specific mechanics to guide our thoughts. A totally foundational tool in this toolkit is arrangement. Think of it this way. When you write an essay, you arrange words to unfold over time, right? You read line by line. But image creators arrange their elements in two-dimensional space. They rely heavily on patterns, these predictable repeated elements of light and color, to dictate exactly how your eyes move across that spatial canvas. You're basically invited to read the image in space rather than in time.
Let's see this in action with some street art. What we're looking at is a mural in Prague by the artist Blue. As our source analysis points out, the artist utilizes the mathematical pattern of a Mobius strip. That's a shape that looks like a twisted spiral, but doesn't actually intersect itself, giving this powerful illusion of infinity. The artist uses this endless loop to depict a continuous cycle of destruction and reconstruction. You've got green tanks, followed by yellow steamrollers, on a piece of real estate labeled the Gaza Strip. The arrangement here is everything. It completely dictates the meaning, using repetition to convey an endless cycle. Moving right along to Section 2, Symbols and Shifting Contexts. Let's call this the context test. So beyond just arrangement, creators lean heavily on colors and symbols. But here's the thing. They don't have fixed universal meanings. How we interpret them shifts wildly depending on our cultural and historical context. A really clear example of this is the story of the Mississippi state flags. On the left is the flag adopted in 1894, and on the right is the flag adopted in 2021. According to the source analysis, the 1894 design included the battle flag of the Confederacy. Over time, and especially gaining momentum in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter movement, various groups argued that the 1894 flag was a stark reminder of the state's history of enslavement and segregation. Consequently, in 2021, the state officially replaced it with the new design on the right. This flag features a magnolia flower, stars symbolizing Mississippi as the 20th State of the Union representing reintegration, and a single gold star honoring the state's indigenous people. The main takeaway here? Symbols carry massive historical weight, and as our cultural contexts shift, the symbols we choose to represent us often shift right along with them.
Now, we can actually take these exact same rhetorical concepts and use them to make active, ethical choices when we're selecting media for our own work. If you're putting together a piece and want to include an image, you've got to ask yourself a few critical questions. First, what's the image's real purpose? Is it actually supplementing the text, or is it just fluff? If the image has text in it, does it enhance the message or just clutter things up? What about the context regarding time and place? And finally, what kind of digital manipulations are needed so it isn't just a blurry mess on the screen?
Let's put that into practice. Imagine you're writing an informational article about the EPA's Clean Water Act. This image brilliantly illustrates what a smart rhetorical choice looks like. It's clean, unambiguous, and simple. Water pouring into a glass. It isn't bogged down by complex contextual clues. There are no distracting characters or weird settings to figure out. It just immediately and effectively emphasizes the clarity of the water and its essential role in our daily lives. It hits the nail on the head without confusing the viewer. Section 3. Cracking the case. Let's decode the dancing sailors. All right, Now that we've got a handle on the mechanics, arrangement, symbols, context, I want to invite you to put your new toolkit to the test. Let's decode a wonderfully complex historical image together. To do that, we first need to meet the creator, Charles Demuth. He was an American painter in the modernist and precisionist movements, working in early 20th century. Demuth was a gay man living through an incredibly difficult historical moment. World War I had drafted thousands of men, the influenza pandemic was devastating the globe, and the military was actively forcing gay people out of the armed forces. Against that intense backdrop, Demuth privately painted scenes from the vibrant gay subculture of the Jazz Age, specifically focusing on underground bars in New York City. Which brings us to this piece, his private 1918 watercolor, Dancing Sailors. Look really closely at the screen. What story is this arrangement trying to tell us? We've got 4 male sailors dancing on a checked floor. 2 are dancing with women, and 2 are dancing with each other. But where is the real focus of the painting?
Let's walk through a brilliant breakdown of this painting done by a student named Leo Davis, which is featured in our source material. Davis shows exactly how Demuth uses visual rhetoric to reveal a hidden homoerotic narrative. First up, point of view. It's this high, intimate close-up where feet and the tops of heads are actually cropped out. It almost makes you, the audience, feel like you're intruding on a private moment. Second, medium and line. Demuth uses watercolor to outline the bodies, creating a texture that makes the uniform pants appear super tight, almost transparent, really emphasizing the men's musculature. And finally, the arrangement. The sailor in the center is dancing with a man, but he's staring dead at the sailor on the far left. The sailor on the left is aggressively arching his back in a pelvic thrust. His partner is a woman, sure, but he's holding her completely at arm's length, ignoring her, and locking eyes with the other sailor. The women are intentionally obscured and rendered incidental. So using our visual toolkit, what looks like a simple dance floor scene reveals itself as a profound piece of documentary art about a secret subculture during World War I.
Let's bring this into the modern era with Section 4, the digital frontier, exploring the digital sublime. So, how do we take these ancient analytical tools, things like point of view, arrangement, and symbol, and apply them to the modern digital realm? How do you assess the rhetoric of images that aren't even made of physical paint? Enter digital pioneer Sarah Luddy. She works in a space heavily defined by digital manipulation, animation, and virtual realities. Her core concept is searching for what she calls the digital sublime. She explores virtual realities, like the game Second Life, and actively searches for awe-inspiring moments. She finds spaces in a world entirely made of binary code that somehow trigger a natural sense of familiarity and awe, essentially bridging that gap between the virtual and the physical worlds.
Her work is just a perfect example of something called hybridity. Hybridity in art is all about blending practical, physical, technological, and artistic methods. Luddy intentionally captures things like pixelation, light radiation, and weird digital artifacts, things most people would just call glitches, and she treats them as meaningful, intentional elements of modern visual rhetoric. She's asking viewers to look at her work prismatically from multiple different angles, exactly the same way we analyzed Demuth watercolors or that ancient Buddhist medallion. So here's a final, provocative thought for you to chew on. You're no longer just a passive consumer letting the timeline wash over you. You are now equipped as a visual detective. You understand arrangement, context, symbols, and even digital hybridity. So, how will you interpret the hidden mechanics and the secret context of the very next image that pops up in your feed? Are you just going to swipe past it, or will you stop, look closer, and actually read the story it's secretly trying to tell you? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy detecting.